Commitment 2010 report, and joining us this morning is Councilman Charles Djou. He's a candidate for Congress in a special election that is upcoming at some point in time. We don't know yet, but Councilman, thanks for being back. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, and good morning on this very cold and blustery Ash Wednesday.
That's right. It's a very, very chilly day. And, well, let's jump into a chilly part of the world, Washington, D.C. The Akaka Bill. It's a question that we've been wanting to ask you. What is your stance on the Akaka Bill?
I believe that Native Hawaiians should have accorded similar rights that is currently being accorded to Native American Indians. And towards that end, I think the Akaka Bill is a good idea. With that said, I think the best approach is to make sure that whatever sort of Native Hawaiian government is created, that we allow some sort of recognition to be accorded only after negotiations between the state government and whatever this Native Hawaiian organization is.
And why is that an important point?
Well, I think, there's a lot of undefined areas right now. We don't have the exact same history as Native American Indians. And that's why I think, consequently, I would be supportive of the measure that passed out of the House Resources Committee, but not as supportive of that measure that passed out of the U.S. Senate.
And so things like gambling on Hawaiian homelands that might be allowed, depending on what version of the Akaka Bill gets approved, those are the types of things that you would be opposed to?
Yes, but let me also be more specific on regarding gambling. I oppose legalization of gambling. I think that the cost to the taxpayers for legalization of gambling will be far higher and exceed the benefits accorded by any additional revenues for gambling.
The Republican National Committee's executive board met here earlier this year, and well, you didn't seem to have a high profile. Did you ever meet with them? Were you ever included in the discussions, or were you trying to keep your distance from the RNC?
Dan, I think it was a great opportunity for Hawaii to showcase itself to some of the prominent leaders in our nation, and the fact that the RNC decided to come out to Hawaii was a very positive thing for Hawaii. And certainly, of course, as the council member from Waikiki, I was very happy that they came and stayed and spent a lot of money in our Waikiki hotels. I did meet with them, but Dan, my campaign has always been about being an independent voice for the people of Hawaii. For me, my partisan label is far, far less important than being a strong and vigorous advocate for the families of Hawaii.
Oh, well, let's go along those lines right there. Do you support the Republican congressional platform that was introduced this year?
I think there's a lot of things, of course, that I find a lot of overlap that I agree with the National Republicans on. But, again, for me, it's more important for me to be an independent advocate for the families and my constituents. And so, consequently, when I disagree with the National Republicans, such as, for example, on a lot of the social issues, I have no problem breaking ranks with the National GOP.
And just out of curiosity, did you support the Palin-McCain ticket in the presidential election, or were you independent of that as well?
Dan, during the last presidential election, I was the co-chair of Rudy Giuliani's campaign for the presidency, so you can obviously tell my presidential prognostication skills aren't exactly the best. With that said here, I have a deep respect for Senator McCain. I've served in the Army. Senator McCain had a very honorable service in the Navy and, of course, as a POW in Vietnam. And so when it came time to vote, I did vote for Senator McCain for president. All
right. Let's move on. Since we have you here and you're in the City Council, we've got about a minute and a half left. Let's talk about what's going on in the City Council right now. You've introduced a bill that's gotten a lot of publicity, and that's regarding banning tents and shopping carts at Kapiolani Park. Is this really the answer to get the homeless out of the park?
Well, a couple of things here, Dan. It doesn't ban it just on Kapiolani Park. It's all parks here in the city and county of Honolulu. Is it the total solution to homelessness in our community? No, of course it isn't. But I do think that it is a step in the right direction, and it will certainly help what we have is a very serious problem here in our community. We have shelter space available, but unfortunately I think you need a stick as well as a carrot to encourage those who are currently on the streets to get the free help offered by the taxpayers, whether it be job counseling or drug counseling or mental health counseling.
It just seems that a lot of politicians' answer to the homeless problem is to try to make it more difficult to be homeless. They have tents because they need someplace to live. They have shopping carts because they need some way to bring their stuff around. So if there's like the similar problem happening at the Haleiwa Boat Harbor right now, are you going to push them more into the communities if they're out of the parks?
Dan, I do think society has a responsibility, and the city specifically has a responsibility to make sure we have services provided at no cost to individuals who are down on their luck. And I certainly think that the government should provide that. But I also think the government has a responsibility to make sure our public parks are available to everybody. And I don't think anybody should have the right to squat and take over a portion of a city park and treat it as their own. And so I think balancing it, both providing free services, whether it be drug counseling or job counseling or mental health counseling, as well as encouraging individuals to get this counseling is the right approach. And so consequently, that's why I've been supporting this measure.
All right, to Councilman Charles Djou, of course, is a candidate for Congress. Neil Abercrombie stepping down February 28th. The special election could be held as early as May 1st.
May 1st, and ballots could come out as early as the beginning of April.
But we'll have to see on that timetable. But, sir, thank you for joining us.
No, my pleasure.
Really
Thank you very much for having me over here.
Back next month.
Will do.